Welcome and thank you for tuning in. Today I'll take you to the outskirts of a quiet town where an ordinary day at a junkyard turns into an extraordinary tale. Imagine uncovering something so unexpected, so baffling, that it leaves even seasoned authorities scrambling for answers. That's exactly what happened when a mechanic stumbled upon a mystery hidden in plain sight, inside a discarded tire. What could it be? And why did it spark a dangerous chain of events that no one saw coming? Stay with me as we unravel this gripping story of secrets, suspense, and survival. In the heart of Junkyard Treasures, a junkyard car dealership on the outskirts of Ashton, mechanic Rick was in for a surprise when he dissected an old tire. The astonishing find inside the tire revealed a secret that went beyond car wrecks. As authorities rushed to the site of the find, Rick struggled to grasp the implications, leaving the entire junkyard buzzing with anticipation and a host of unanswered questions. Rick had been answering questions from his colleagues about his bizarre find for about 15 minutes now, and in all honesty, he still did not really have any idea what he had actually found. But whatever it was, the whole tire was full of it. He wanted to inspect his find further, but after calling the police for advice, he was instructed to stay away until they arrived. None of the employees remembered buying or bringing the tire into the junkyard. Rick had just found it in a lineup of cars that needed to be stored, so he decided to go through the standard procedure without asking any more questions. One of the steps in the procedure was to either remove the tires if they could still be sold, or to puncture them to ensure the car did not roll out of its place when hit by something. These tires were clearly on their last life, so Rick did not hesitate and punctured them with a screwdriver. The first two tires went as normal, but for the third, something odd happened. Rick punctured the tire but felt more resistance than usual. When he pulled his screwdriver out of the rubber, he saw that the tire only deflated slightly. Confused, he stabbed it 2 more times, but the same thing happened. The tire stayed mostly inflated despite having 3 holes in it. This was seemingly impossible, and Rick grew curious. He took out his knife and started cutting along the outside of the tire until he managed to create a flap big enough to pull back. Only then did he see that the tire was not empty at all. It was filled to the brim with something he had never seen before. He quickly took a step back, fearing he had found something he should never have seen. Scared of being blamed for the discovery, Rick decided not to take any risks and immediately contacted the police. After only 15 minutes of waiting, a car pulled up to the junkyard. However, it was not a police car. 2 big black trucks, which looked like they could cross the desert with ease, arrived instead. These people were clearly up to no good. Armed and covered in tattoos, which Rick quickly associated with local gangs, they got out of the vehicles. Rick, who had been walking toward the cars before the gang members jumped out, realized there was no point in hiding. All he could do was put his hands up and comply. The gang members approached him and told Rick that nobody would get hurt if he helped them find the package they were looking for. Rick realized they were after the car with the filled tire. He knew that if he stalled long enough, the police might arrive in time to arrest them. However, the last thing he wanted was for him and his colleagues to be caught in a firefight. Rick told the gang members he knew exactly where the car was, hoping they would keep their word and not harm anyone. But he also knew they would not be pleased to find the tire already opened. As the gang members saw the sliced open tire, disbelief washed over their faces. "What is this?" one of them growled, pointing a gun at Rick. Rick stammered nervously. "I found something in the tire. I called the police." Realization dawned on the gang members. "Cops are on their way," one of them muttered. In mere moments, the gang removed the tire with swift and precise movements, loaded it into one of their trucks, and prepared to leave. As the engines roared to life, dust and gravel flew into the air, marking their hasty retreat from the junkyard. Rick's heart hammered against his ribs as the gang leader pressed a gun to his temple and demanded answers. Rick insisted he was just a mechanic doing his job and that he was working alone. The gang members circled him, their questions coming like rapid gunfire. Rick answered each one carefully, mixing truth with innocence. The gang huddled together, whispering heatedly. One muttered, "He's lying," while another countered, "Maybe he's just a fool." The leader finally ordered Rick to accompany them. Meanwhile, the police, informed by Rick's colleagues, had begun their pursuit. Under the cover of twilight, the police expertly tailed the gang's vehicles, keeping their presence unknown. The convoy veered off the main road and stopped at a desolate safe house hidden in the desert. The gang seemed unaware they were being followed. Inside the safe house, Rick's situation grew more dire. His hands were bound, and he was pushed into a dimly lit room. The police positioned themselves strategically around the safe house, waiting for the right moment to act. As dawn broke, tensions escalated inside the safe house. The gang members debated Rick's fate, arguing over whether to let him go or kill him. Bound in a corner, Rick felt a cold dread settle over him. Finally, the leader decided, "We'll decide in the morning." Left alone and relatively unguarded, Rick began his desperate attempt to escape. Twisting his wrists against the ropes, he gritted his teeth and focused all his energy on loosening the binds. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but he pressed on, driven by the instinct to survive. Eventually, Rick freed himself and cautiously approached the unsuspecting guard. With a swift, silent motion, he knocked the guard unconscious and slipped out of the safe house. He ran into the desert, fear of being pursued fueling his escape. As the first light illuminated the horizon, Rick stumbled upon a contingent of police and armed forces preparing to raid the safe house. Rick revealed his identity, and the officers ensured his safety. In a swift, coordinated move, the police and armed forces breached the safe house. The gang members, jolted awake, were caught completely off guard. The confrontation was brief but intense. The law enforcement team quickly subdued and handcuffed the gang members, whose resistance crumbled under the well-coordinated raid. With the gang secured, the police searched the premises and recovered the controversial tire. Upon examination, they confirmed it was filled with illegal contraband, a critical piece of evidence in their investigation. This discovery marked a major breakthrough in the case, validating the risks taken during the operation. Rick provided valuable insights into the gang's operations during his debriefing. His observations from captivity shed light on the criminal group's dynamics and hierarchy. With this information and the evidence gathered, the police meticulously mapped out the gang's activities and connections. The investigation revealed a complex network, leading to the identification of key players and subsequent actions to dismantle the organization. In the following weeks, the gang members faced the full weight of justice. One by one, they were convicted, and their sentences served as a testament to the severity of their crimes. The local community, once under the gang's shadow, breathed a collective sigh of relief. News of the convictions brought closure and a renewed sense of safety. The Junkyard, now free from its unwitting involvement in crime, started a new chapter under new management, returning to honest work and trade. Rick, too, found a fresh beginning. Reflecting on the whirlwind of events, he gained a deeper appreciation for life's unpredictability and the resilience of the human spirit.